Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelorette Recap Review. Happy Friday, August 6th, 2021. The home stretch. Days before Katie Thurston's season finale of The Bachelorette, and things are cooking. This is like when you bake something and you keep looking in the window of the oven and you're waiting for the lasagna to finish and you're like, it doesn't even look like it's cooking. And then all of a sudden you look in after an hour and it's bubbling on the sides and the cheese is all crisped up nice. And you got one of those glass Pyrexes so you can see, oh boy, dinner's ready, folks. Okay, we got drama. Now listen, I think most people are on Katie's side of this Katie versus Greg dilemma, but I think it's important that we hear other opinions. Hearing other opinions, even those that we don't agree with, it's so important for us to triangulate the truth, okay? So Katie has her truth, and Greg has his truth, and then there's some sort of like truth that exists amongst all of us as we watch it, and some people get very triggered by what they see on TV because they've been in similar situations. We've talked to therapists, psychologists, Nick Viall. We're going to get into what he said on his podcast, and then he spoke with a professional. He got a bunch of negative reviews and fallback from that, but I think it's important to hear what he has to say, even if it's something that's different than what you think. Now, we also are going to hear from Bekah Martinez. She's a very controversial character. People love her or hate her. Her guy, Gray, has some great opinions on the matter. So we're going to get right into all that. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe. We just hit 38,000 subscribers, 10,000 followers on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for that. Doing the Lord's work, and I appreciate y'all. I recorded a separate video following my interview with Dr. Diane. The interview went so well. So many people loved what she had to say about attachment, anxiety attachment, and different theories of revolving around the psychology of why we act the way we do. Now, we know Greg Grippo's operating in the best intentions, and we know Katie Thurston is. Why? Because everyone's trying their best with the information they have. We know all of that. Everyone says, oh, he's here just to exploit his acting career. Come on, let's think a little bit deeper than that, okay? How many people do you know that went on the show, became fantastic actors from it? Not the path. No, it's a path for influencers. That's a different story. So let's jump right into this. As well, I'll say this. As we know, this is these text messages were what they said in the After the Final Rose preview, where he said, I emptied my heart out to you. And she said, I don't think you know what love is. I added that part. All right, so we'll get into that. Let's start with Bekah. Let's hear what she had to say. So we'll play Bekah, then we're going to share some of the criticism from Nick's podcast, and then we are going to share some other criticism that people are getting, that Tayshia and Natasha are getting for the sides they're taking on this matter. All right, let's get right into it, folks. You guys are being fantastic. Thank you for making my day so much fun. All right, here we go.
And we disagree all the time. Yeah. And we do get in arguments and fights on the regular.
Yeah.
But the reason, like, it's what me and Evan say about on our podcast about couples therapy is like any active approach someone's taking to solve the issues in their relationship are going to work if both parties want a resolution at the end of the day. If that's what you're both seeking, you'll find it.
So do you think that Greg wanted that at all?
No.
This is some of the best and simplistic take I've heard. If both parties, Greg and Katie, are seeking resolution, they'll find it. They might not cure themselves, but if they're both trying to hemorrhage the bleeding of their relationship and putting a tourniquet on it, then they're going to stop the bleeding. But he's saying, you know what? I don't deal with blood. I gotta go. She's like, come on, help. The relationship is dying. There's blood. No. Go find somebody else. I can't do this. Whereas two parties, like my fiance and myself, we've had tough conversations in the past, early on in our relationship, where we go, are we going to do this? This was a bad fight. Are we going to do this? Are we going to work towards this? And I remember early on in my relationship, we met at a bagel shop in Hollywood before we lived together. And I didn't know if we were going to be together when we left that bagel shop. I was like, she's going to have to. It was after a bad, stupid fight. I was like, what are we even fighting about? And then I was like, she's going to have to show up in me. I don't care if she only brings 1% and I bring 99. We have to at least both inch our way to the negotiating table. And we left there still together. And we're happily engaged now. But the point is we had to learn each other's communication techniques. Greg, when push came to shove, wasn't willing to negotiate. And it's not about negotiating when you're both happy. It's about negotiating when you're feeling really hurt, really down, when you feel like, all these things. The only defenses I'm seeing of people that are defending Greg sort of are like mind readers. Like, well, he felt like she was going to choose Blake anyway, or he felt. It's like, well, I mean, but that just goes to show the relationship wasn't happening. You can't have you can't have two people bouncing off. Like, she was running after him and he kept on going, and it's at some point it's like, all right, you know what I mean? He sealed his fate.
Why?
Because I don't think he was serious about the show from the get-go.
Or serious about Katie.
Yeah.
No, I think he was serious about the show. I think he was serious about wanting to be the Bachelor, but not about
I bet he wanted to be the Bachelor, and then this was his out.
I disagree.
To make himself look emotionally wounded.
Uh-huh.
And basically get like a bunch of sympathy, which is how the next Bachelors are always chosen.
No, I mean, I disagree with that respectfully. I disagree. I think he caught feelings for Katie. I think that's what it was. You know what I mean? I think he caught feelings for Katie, and yeah. So I think that's like when you start getting into like conspiracies, and it's like, well, if you look at this footage of the moon landing, you notice that it's the same dust they have in Arizona. It's like too much info. No, I think the simplistic answer is is that he fell in love, he got heartbroken, and his own fears is what drove him away. Agree to disagree.
Didn't work.
Love this toe shot too.
To me.
So anyway.
So be feeling lucky to have such an emotionally aware man in your life?
He is, though. He is. You solve your issues with your person by meeting at the negotiating table. So let's fast forward here. They continue the conversation, and it is actually fascinating stuff. So anyway, let's just...
Because I just can't stop myself. There's a lot of conversation right now going on in Bachelor Nation, on large Bachelor-affiliated podcasts, about, breaking down, was what Greg did actually emotional abuse? Was it actually gaslighting? Here's the technical terms. Here's what it means. Well, if we see a pattern, then that's emotional abuse, yada, yada, yada. To me, all of that is a little irrelevant. What's relevant to me is that what we saw on national TV, when this person knew they were being recorded, after they professed that this other person was the love of their life, their behavior was extremely worrisome, concerning. And if I saw that behavior displayed towards anyone I loved, I would go, girl, I think you should get out of this relationship. This does not seem healthy.
So she said, it wasn't cool, it was concerning. I would never want to see anyone I love be treated that way, and I don't believe said person should have the opportunity to date more women on national TV. Okay, so sort of agree, sort of don't agree. I agree that it's a red flag. Red flags are, we call them red flags because it's like the flag warning if you're at the beach. There's different warnings. Oh, riptide, rip current, be careful, tread cautiously. A red flag doesn't mean arrest this person, never let them on national TV, never let them pursue love. It means, oh, no, this person's got some issues they need to work on. There are red flags, okay? So sure, he's got red flags, but you can't negate people that are actually searching for the proper definition of gaslighting. You know what I mean? So it's like if everyone says, oh, it's gaslighting, then you get like psychologists that come on that are very smart. I had Dr. Diana on, studied at Stanford, right? Very smart, makes, very nice living, professionally speaking, knows what they're talking about. It's going, well, gaslighting's actually, it's a concerted effort over time to make the other person appear to think insane and this and that. It goes, well, Are we just going to change the definition of gaslighting? Maybe, and that's fine too. Sometimes the definitions of things just change over time, So maybe it is gaslighting. I don't know. That's my answer is I don't know, But by all means, I'm not defending Greg whatsoever. Katie dodged a bullet here. But by all means, the intention of what Greg was trying to do is important. It is important to look at it and go, oh, right, what's the pain he was feeling, and how did that translate to what we saw on TV? Was it ugly? Yes. Was it problematic? Yes. Do you want your sister or best friend or anyone to go through that? Of course not. But if you're like friends or family of Greg's, you also want to like give him some redemption to learn what his issues are. I think he's redeemable. All right, let's keep going.
And yeah, that's the point to me.
I don't need an expert to tell me when someone does something effed up. No. And again, so here's where I go. I don't think it's up to the expert but this is also sort of in some ways willfully ignorant, saying I don't need you to tell me the definition of something I don't quite understand. Experts that's like saying I don't need to take the vaccine. I don't need to hear what Fauci has to say. My buddy Steve read a blog that said it's going to give me a third leg. You know what I mean? It's like I'm heightening this. For example, I like Bekah. I like what she does. I like her voice. I'm all about it. The experts aren't telling you that it's not effed up. The experts, I can't speak for Nick's expert. My expert, Dr. Diane, is saying, my expert said it's narcissistic behavior, but he's not like a clinical or like not like a narcissist or like 1% of the population. Everyone's got narcissistic traits. We do things that are narcissistic, but it's like at what threshold, at what level. So she saw his issues as some sort of like anxious attachment disorder. Again, I'm messing it up. You got to go watch the 40-minute video that I had on my channel because she's fantastic. She is so smart. She knows what she's doing. Dr. Diane, that is. So it's less about being told what the problem is, but just saying, hey, words are important. Words are really important, and we need to really understand what they mean to know how to diagnose things. And again, you and myself, I understand, even these psychologists, we only are seeing a portion of it, so we probably shouldn't be diagnosing anybody in the first place. Did it look good? No, not at all. Red flags galore? Absolutely. But then again, we're wondering, as this is an edited show, what the heck actually went down, Let's see if there's any other clips from her. Emotional manipulation. So there's for sure, the guilt trip. Guilt-tripping behaviors often show up in close friendships, romantic partnerships, friendships, professional relationships, or family relationships. I know something about this. Raised Irish Catholic, my whole life was a guilt trip. You know what I mean? My first birthday, it's like, you see what you did to my womb? You know what I mean? It's like, Mom, go easy. Come on, I'm trying to blow out the cake. I love my family. I do. Ignore your efforts to talk about the problem. Give you the silent treatment. Silent treatment is brutal. Deny their irritation through their actions. Tell you otherwise. Show no interest in doing anything to improve the situation themselves. Use body language to communicate their displeasure by sighing, crossing their arms, and slamming objects down. Now, I have to say this, again, because I don't want my comments to be misconstrued. I don't want the chatty broad fan base to come at me, okay? I like Bekah. I like what she's doing. I think I messaged her this yesterday. I was like, my mom was a single mom. I know she's not single, but my mom was a single mom. And I think my mom raised me and my sister the way Bekah like is, with the curiosity of being a young mom and trying her best and like being entrepreneurial and this and that. So like I give Bekah all the credit in the world. I know Bekah's not responding to me with this. She's responding to the Bachelor sort of like produced podcast or the Bachelor approved podcast, Happy Hour, Clickbait, Nick Viall. Even I don't think he's necessarily affiliated, but he's on their good side. So I understand she's questioning them, sort of saying, oh, Greg did the right thing. Now, I'm not saying Greg did the right thing. He did not act well at all. But I also don't write him off as some horrible guy because of it. I think it was bad. And you saw him in, like, as I'm going to butcher this, but as Dr. Diane said on my podcast, you learn about someone, they're like tea. You learn about yourself when you put it in hot water. I butchered that. But the point is he was in a moment of adversity, and rather than coming to the negotiating table with Katie, he took pilot Peter Weber's first flight out of town. You know what I mean? All right. So that happened. And then here's some comments from people. The title on Reddit was, Bekah posts some interesting potential insider information. So she said, saying all this because word on the street is that Greg will be appearing on certain Bachelor podcasts next week and he'll be getting the Bachelor edit. So she thinks Greg's going to be getting the Bachelor edit, which we've talked about. Some comments. Her obsession with Greg is making her truly unhinged. I disagree. She has more smoke at Greg getting a Bachelor edit than Andrew potentially being the Bachelor when he had hordes of tweets disparaging black women. For me, that's like a whataboutism. Let's just not deal with Andrew. That's a different issue. How is this not harassment? And by this, I don't just mean this particular story. Bekah has been bashing him almost for weeks now. She hasn't spared even his family, has tagged him in stories. You hate him, we get that, but you have thousands of folks following you, and one would think, concerning how much shit out there affects her, she would show some restraint. Why is Bekah obsessed with this man? So clearly, people are recoiling off of Bekah's feelings. No, I don't disagree with Bekah saying though, like the guy's got issues he needs to work on, problematic behavior for sure. But could you say something or do something that is emotionally abusive? One of his final conversations with Katie without being an abuser. Now we get into sort of like semantics, right? Well, if you abuse somebody, you're an abuser. Well, emotional abuse can happen, as like collateral damage. So Katie, and again, I'm not a therapist, right? I'm just some bloke online. So it's like, what are we thinking? But Katie could receive collateral damage because of Greg's inability to communicate his authentic feelings and his fight or flight mode and the some of the other tactics that he used to sort of win the argument and get out of there. So does that make him an emotional abuser? It makes it doesn't negate how Katie feels, and that's important. Okay, if Katie feels a certain way, that's important because she's on the receiving end of whatever he did, but he might not have meant it that way, and that's where intention it's all about, right? So like for me, it's like if my fiance gets really mad at something I did or said, even if I meant well, I have to respect the fact that tripped her defense system and be like, honey, I am so sorry. I'm trying to compliment, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z, but I understand why you feel a certain way that you do. You have to respect the other person's feelings. So I think Katie was dumbfounded in the Greg-Katie argument. She was like, oh my God, like I didn't even know you were, what? And then, but she did apologize, right? She was down on her knees. I'm so sorry. For him to not kind of like accept that and move forward with that, that's problematic. Is it emotional abuse? That's something I don't have the pay grade to be diagnosing that, but we are discussing it. And I think that's healthy. So Nick, let's see, did I miss something here? So Nick posts this. And again, pardon the quality here. BachelorNation.scoop has done a really good job. If you guys already follow them on Instagram, but give them a follow. BachelorNation.scoop, they do the Lord's work with compiling all of this info. So Nick Viall released this on his Instagram story because he got a lot of flack for saying it wasn't gaslighting. And he may be right. I don't know. He may be right. He may be crazy. He may be wrong. I don't know. You know what I mean? So many different definitions of it that at this point, I don't feel comfortable even saying what is up and what is down. But he said, on this episode, Dr. Solomon clinically breaks down the fight between Katie and Greg while discussing gaslighting and emotional abuse. She helps us to understand whether we saw these actions on screen and why it might be triggering to so many watching at home. Listen now. And that got a lot of flashback. LMFA. Oh, seems like he's trying to save face now. By the way, if you need a pick-me-up, go on Spotify and listen to an LMFAO album, that party rock album. I listened to that when I went on a jog. I had a heart attack. I was like running too fast. It was such a jam. Unless you're younger and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Moving along. So anyway, let's fast forward to some of the responses that have been compiled about Nick's take on this all. How is this effing therapist telling you it's bad and you're still trying to talk your way into making Greg the good guy? Listening to this right now, and Nick is trying to steer the conversation according to his perspective, getting really insecure vibes from Nick too. Well, look, I mean, he's a person too, right? So like, I'd rather have his take on it, even if it's not the one you want to hear. It's nice to hear these people talk. They have a big platform. Again, everyone makes their own opinion based on the information that we have. Just listen, Nick is still so incredibly biased towards Greg. I'm on the side that Katie tried her best to ameliorate the situation and Greg took the high road. And by high road, I mean he got out of there before he did his full due diligence on pursuing the relationship as far as it could possibly go. It definitely sounds like he can relate more to Greg, which, red flag. He repeatedly tries to defend and justify Greg's behavior. Where is that consideration for Katie? He leads the guest so clearly in certain directions. Well, the point is that maybe Nick might relate better to Greg as a guy, you know what I mean? And that's a bias, of course, but that's the same reason that so many audience members on the show got triggered by the conversation and related to Katie, because they've been in these conversations with men before that have gone so sour. Let's have a listen real quick.
Just a final note, we will be having Greg on the podcast, and he will be with us after the final rose.
Wow.
We certainly hope that goes well for both Greg and Katie.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
We're not sure if it will, but we'll certainly have a chance to hear from Greg. Obviously we don't know what he's going to say, and maybe he clears a lot of this up at AFR, but either way, we'll be breaking down AFR with Mina Kimes and also with Greg.
All right, so we'll have to check that out. Now, obviously, Nick knows it doesn't go well because he's seen this, so obviously he knows it doesn't go well. But it's important to hear Greg speak. Even if he says the wrong things or feels the wrong way, it's important to hear him speak. Maybe he's learned a lot from seeing this. We don't know where he's at. Just like it was important to hear Rachel Kirkconnell speak. We don't just deplatform people before like hearing more. There is a chance he speaks, and it's even therapeutic to a lot of people that are on Katie's side, where they realize a guy who was scorned or felt his pain or whatever the case may be. That's not a bad thing. Katie left. Greg Grippo left the second Katie joined. All right, so that's too far. We've gone too far. So anyway, Nick's podcast. Then he gets all these negative reviews, which, you know, everyone has the right to review things as they want. But like, if you disagree with someone's take, does that mean you get a negative review? Now, someone told me they were going to unsubscribe from me recently based off of them mishearing something I said, because I replayed it and I said the right thing, but they thought I was saying something else. So because they didn't agree with my take, they were going to unsubscribe from me. And it's like, I understand if you don't agree with, you want to listen to stuff that like there is confirmation bias and all that, but we're here to challenge each other, to not necessarily think the way that we initially did about a scenario, but look deeper. You might not change your opinions, but like I said about triangulating, it's important. It's important to know what's going through Greg's mind in this situation, even if we're going to stay on Katie's side. You guys want to, you know what I'm saying? It's important to know. I made this sort of analogy the other day. It's like, I like to drive cars, right? But if my car breaks down, I don't know what's wrong with it. I go to a mechanic. The mechanic goes, oh, you got to replace the alternator. It sounds really bad and your car would overheat and then your engine will explode and all that. But if you just fix it with this little alternator belt, it'll be fine in no time. $50. You go, oh my gosh, $50, that's amazing. Well, in Greg's situation, now, trauma can be a lot deeper seated than fixing your alternator in your car. But with all of us and all the trauma we have and our inner child being protected and all these things, we have to seek out the problem and fix it from the inside out. And just when that happens, epiphanies, enlightenments, we can actually go on with our life and then not scar others. Our whole goal in life is to take our parents' trauma that they passed on to us, fix it so we don't pass it on to anyone else, right? Emotional abuse supporter, supporting an emotional abuser, even if Katie was in the wrong. Greg acted extremely abusive. So, disappointed. I usually am marginally entertained by these recaps, but this last episode with analyzing the Greg and Katie fight was super disappointing. This may be the podcast for you if you like relationship advice from a 40-year-old man dating a 20-year-old. Okay, well, is that relevant to the misogynistic who surrounds himself with yes? The fact that Nick Viall is defending Greg Grippo's narcissistic and gaslighting. So it's like one after another. So I actually messaged Bachelor data analyst at Bachelor Data. You got to go give her a follow. I said, did Nick's rating go down after the Greg Grippo take? And she's so great. She goes, well, and she just rattles off, well, he had 17.4 thousand ratings and an average rating of 4.2, and he's gotten 300 more ratings since then, but the average rating hasn't changed. So it appears that these negative reviews, while they are the most obvious ones to see, hasn't changed his rating. But also, we're going to keep an eye on this because iTunes they don't have day-to-day updating of their rating system. So we'll have to see if his rating did go down. Not that it matters. Rating means nothing except for someone who's checking in a new podcast. They might go, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that. Anyway, I'm not in support of Nick defending problematic behavior. I'm just saying it's important to look at different sides of things in a healthier way to formulate your own opinion. And then I think the last I'm going to say, because I'm running long here, is the Bekah was referring to this podcast where you've got Nick Viall on the one I just showed you, and then this one right here where you have Caitlin and Grocery Store Joe sort of taking Katie's side, and then Tayshia and Natasha taking Greg's side. You heard Katie's story, and then you felt bad, and then you watched it back, and you felt like Greg was in the wrong.
I was more like confused, actually.
Yes.
And wanted to see what really happened, and then watching back, I was like, could Katie have been a little more, reactive to him saying these things? Of course, but the way he responded back to that, I thought was bullshit.
I kind of did too.
Joe?
Yeah, I agree, and Greg seems like a nice guy, and I just I felt like he just hung on to it and wouldn't let it go, and it was like, okay, listen, I mean, this is the show. She's dating multiple guys. She obviously saying I love you is going to be really big. Mm-hmm. But like, this is what it is. Like, there's 3 guys left. She's making a huge decision. Like,
There
chill
are
out.
lists. There are roses.
Yeah.
There are placements.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
This
Okay.
isn't regular life. Like, it is the show.
But she gave him so much reassurance the whole show.
See, this is where I see differently.
we
It's
go.
just like,
Go,
yeah,
Tasha.
because like
Go, Tasha.
at the same time, like he just opened up about something that was so, like, it took a lot for him to open up about it. He was so vulnerable. And like in that moment, like when you do finally put those walls down, like you want to be like validated. You know what I mean? Like, and we know this because we were all on the show at some point. Like, it's just like, it takes a lot for you to open up and be comfortable. Like, it took me a couple of weeks to be able to feel like, okay, wait, I can actually formulate a sentence in front of this guy. You know what I mean? So it's like, he was finally able to do that. And then he got a, you know, and it's just like,
I like looking at you.
Well, and we also don't know if that's true, right? So anyway, it's complicated, but you know what's not complicated? Your support for this channel. I appreciate you guys so much. It's been amazing. Thank you guys so much for getting me over that hump on Instagram to 10,000 subscribers, followers on Instagram. 38,000 on here. We'll be at 40,000 before we know it. Let me know what you guys think. Monday night, we're going to get a lot of answers, but then after that, we're going to get Monday night, we're going to get some answers, and that's going to be the start of a whole new debate. And then we're going to have Greg Grippo on Nick Viall's podcast. There's going to be a lot of discussion happening. I imagine I won't be sleeping much. Get that coffee out. A busy week for sure. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great Friday. I'm getting a phone call right now. All right. Bye, folks.